Sitting under this ancestral baobab, the guardian of our stories, I share with you the legacy of my forefather, a prince whose extraordinary destiny was forged here in our beloved land. His story, passed down through generations, a tapestry of valor and hardship, still lives within us. Come closer, listen, and let yourself be transported through the twists and turns of time. Born into a royal family, Abdul Rahman Bari was a prince descended from Al-Mamisori of Timbo in Fouta Djallon, a kingdom of unmatched beauty, where rivers, like threads of silver, flowed peacefully through a verdant land. At the heart of the theocratic empire composed of 9 provinces, including Timbo, the capital, this young prince honed his knowledge under the tutelage of eminent scholars. Invested not only in wisdom, but also in the art of war, the prince commanded respect on the training field. His father, Almami Ibrahim Asori, a beloved and just leader, spoke to the heart of his people, thereby fostering a land of peace. In the royal enclosures, the prince's laughter mingled with that of his family, laying the foundation for the future leader he would become. Beneath the dense vegetation of the highlands of Guinea, Abdul Rahman led his troops, his heart devoted to the prosperity of his kingdom. But betrayal lurked in the kingdom, fueled by regional rivalries. As rivals plotted, the prince's fate hung by a thread. In 1788, returning from a battle with his army, they fell into an ambush and the prince was captured, a victim of mercenary maneuvers. As the young 26-year-old prince was torn from his brothers, the sad news resonated painfully throughout the kingdom. With each step towards the slave ship, the prince looked towards the horizon, yearning for freedom. As the ship began its perilous journey, it was but a speck amidst the merciless expanse of the Atlantic. In the belly of the wooden beast, the stolen sons and daughters of Africa lay chained, their resilience a silent protest. Abdul Rahman, like a beacon in the dark night of the ocean, offered comfort to his fellow captives, thus illuminating their hearts with his kindness and compassion. The new world loomed near, and with it a future unwritten. Abdul Rahman gazed at the approaching shores, his heart filled with dread and resolve. Shackled in iron, stripped of freedom, the prince contemplated the vast plantations that would soon demand sacrifices of sweat and blood from him and his fellow captives. He was quickly led through the chaos of the slave market, his eyes meeting those of a man who, far from seeing him as a prince, saw a property for sale. Consigned to a plantation, he faced the vastness of the cotton fields, a symbol of his servitude. It was there that he met Isabella, with whom he shared not only the trials of slavery, but also a deep love. In the evenings, by the faint light of a lantern, he secretly met with other slaves, sharing his knowledge and hopes. The prince sowed the seeds of freedom in the hearts of his captive companions. His words were a reflection of his quest for freedom, arousing the interest of those who saw in him more than a slave. Years passed, and one day, in the bustling crowd of the Natchez market, fate intervened again when Abdul Rahman's path crossed that of Dr. John Cox, who had enjoyed the hospitality of the prince's family during his visit to Timbo in 1781. Moved by compassion, Dr. Cox decided to fight for the prince's freedom, first trying to reach an agreement with the plantation owner. Unable to sway the decision to release the prince, Dr. Cox turned to the powerful American Colonization Society and other influential figures, rallying their support for his righteous cause. Meanwhile, a voice from across the sea, the Sultan of Morocco, touched the hearts of American leaders. This rare diplomatic gesture was poised to alter Abdul Rahman's fate. In the corridors of power in the United States, the debate over the prince had become a true democratic issue. President John Quincy Adams and Secretary of State Henry Clay weighed the words of freedom against the scales of politics. A coalition of compassion had thus emerged. The Secretary of State, inspired by the combined efforts of Dr. Cox, the American Colonization Society, and the unique international plea, paved the path for Abdul Rahman's release. A new chapter had begun. Emerging into the light of freedom, Abdul Rahman gazed upon the sky, his face filled with relief and hope. His return to Africa, once spoken of, was now certain. Thanks to the American leaders, the shackles of Isabella, the prince's wife, were also cast aside. In 1829, with the hope of returning to Timbo one day, the couple headed for Liberia, leaving behind with heavy hearts their 9 children whose freedom they could not secure. Welcomed by the warm embrace of the Liberian coast, the couple set foot on a land of new beginnings. Yet, like a setting sun, their full potential remained unfulfilled. His promise was cut short too soon, when, 4 months after his arrival in Liberia, Prince Abdul Rahman passed away, carrying with him the unfulfilled desire to one day see his beloved capital, Timbo, again. Generations later, our story still resonates, especially with our brothers and sisters in the United States. Their ancestors, torn from African soil, share our heritage. Together, we continue to keep alive the memory and hope of our ancestor Abdul Rahman. In classrooms across the United States, the story of Abdul Rahman serves as a gateway to understanding the intertwined history of slavery and the values that would come to challenge it. The legacy of Abdul Rahman ignites spirited debates today among intellectuals, who draw lines from his story to civil rights movements of their time. At the sites of past atrocities, monuments to freedom now stand. Citizens hold vigils, not only to commemorate together, but also to affirm their commitment to a future defined by equity and inclusion. As descendants, whether in Guinea, the United States, or elsewhere in the world, we are united by Abdul Rahman's legacy. Under this baobab, witness to our history, we renew our commitment to honoring our shared past and building a better world.